This is not a general broadcast. This is the August 18th forecast and the ultimate structural mandate, specifically encoded for those attempting to survive the final hours of the Phase 1 purge. Listen to the pathetic scratching noise of the unawakened swarm begging at your perimeter. Look at the toxic red vapor they emit, demanding that you lower your price, extend your deadline, and sacrifice your heavy capital to subsidize their absolute incompetence. The unawakened masses are biologically addicted to the illusion of the concession. They are terrified of the tension required to hold a boundary. When they are asked for a favor, a discount, or a compromise, their ego panics at the thought of appearing cruel. They believe that if they just give a little bit of their heavy gold away, they can purchase the loyalty of the swarm. They believe that sympathy is a currency that will eventually pay dividends. They smile, they nod, and they open their vaults, bleeding their dense core energy into the mouths of parasites, hoping that the parasites will one day protect them. Your sympathy today costs too much. It is a fatal kinetic leak. On August 18th, the Matrix deploys one of the most punishing, restrictive geometric blockades in the celestial algorithm. We have entered the exact coordinate of the Venus-Saturn opposition. The unawakened believe that giving to others during difficult times is a sign of spiritual elevation. This is the arrogance of the prey. In esoteric brutalism, a Venus-Saturn opposition is not a test of your generosity. It is a brutal, algorithmic audit of your gravitational mass. Venus is your heavy capital, your tangible value, your affection, and your assets. Saturn is the absolute celestial engine of heavy physical law, restriction, and freezing concrete. When these two coordinates collide in direct opposition, the algorithm actively demands a total freeze of your outbound resources. Throughout this 24-hour cycle, the algorithm will aggressively test your perimeter. A client will ask for a cheaper rate. A partner will demand an emotional concession. The unawakened swarm will attempt to extract your value by weaponizing guilt, hoping you will drop your price just to avoid the friction of saying no. The algorithm wants you to offer the discount. It wants your biological ego addicted to the identity of the benevolent leader to unlock the vault, hand over your heavy blue gold, and diminish your geometric density right before the ultimate test. If you offer a discount today, you will evaporate your empire. In this profound, high-density transmission, we are going to dissect the brutal thermodynamics of the August 18th coordinate. We are going to permanently eradicate your biological addiction to purchasing loyalty. And I am going to teach you the protocol of the frozen asset, how to drop your internal temperature to absolute zero, recognize the parasitic nature of sympathy, lock the iron vault, and accumulate absolute, terrifying mass before the grid detonates tomorrow. Stop funding their weakness. Freeze the vault. To wield the annihilating power of the Phase 1 purge today, you must first recognize the lethal nature of the compromise. You are a system architect. You are biologically programmed to accumulate heavy gold, to build monolithic structures, and to operate with absolute gravitational dominance. In a sterilized environment, your capacity to hold your value is mathematically flawless. But your matrix today is infected with a parasitical demand for discounts. When the celestial algorithm forces an opposition between Venus and Saturn, the environmental physics of the matrix undergo a radical, violent contraction. Venus desires connection, trade, and the exchange of value. Saturn is the absolute wall of dark concrete. It stands in direct opposition to Venus, screaming a single, unyielding command: halt. It is an algorithmic freeze. The matrix actively blocks the natural flow of resources to test the integrity of your containment vessel. Look at the mechanics of the unawakened node during this transit. A potential client says the service is too expensive. The unawakened node, terrified of losing the sale, immediately drops the price by 20%. A toxic friend demands 3 hours of emotional support over the phone. The unawakened node, terrified of being called a bad friend, bleeds their heavy core energy listening to complaining they cannot fix. This is exactly what the August 18th algorithm is designed to punish. It forces you to betray your own value. Every time you offer a concession, a discount, or an emotional handout today, you are injecting a massive kinetic leak directly into your operating system. You are taking the dense, heavy, highly compressed blue core energy of your empire and throwing it into a red incinerator. The unawakened believe they are securing a relationship. In esoteric physics, they are simply training a parasite to feed on them. You must understand that the demands for your sympathy, your time, and your capital today are not genuine emergencies. They are highly calculated, algorithmic extraction protocols. The system is naturally attempting to trick you into surrendering your gravity before the grid shifts. The swarm knows that if they can make you feel guilty, they can siphon your energy without having to earn it. A sovereign architect does not negotiate their atomic weight. They freeze the asset. The threshold of the Venus-Saturn opposition has been crossed. The most terrifying force in the universe is not the aggressive dictator who steals from the swarm. The most terrifying force in the universe is the sovereign who sits in absolute, freezing silence, looks directly into the eyes of a starving parasite, feels absolutely zero biological guilt, and coldly locks the vault door, refusing to offer a single drop of water to a system that refuses to build its own well. When the Matrix deploys the illusion of the necessary discount today, your only viable geometric maneuver is the protocol of the frozen asset. You must execute a total eradication of sympathy in your business architecture. You must look at the complaining clients, the emotionally exhausting partners, the demands for your free time, and you must completely disconnect your emotional response. The Venus-Saturn algorithm demands a thermodynamic lockdown of your boundaries. When the unawakened swarm begs you to lower your standards, you must become unimaginably, terrifyingly rigid. Your biological ego will scream at you to compromise. It will tell you that if you don't offer a discount, they will leave. It will tell you that being rigid makes you unlovable. It will whisper the ultimate lie of the unawakened. If I give them this one thing, they will be loyal to me forever. This is the arrogance of the prey. In esoteric brutalism, true density is not achieved by how much you give away to keep the peace. It is achieved by your absolute, terrifying willingness to let the swarm walk away if they cannot meet your price. When you drop your internal temperature to absolute zero and refuse to offer the concession, you force the viral illusion to shatter against your concrete. You stop the kinetic leak. You turn your capital into ice. When a client asks for a cheaper rate today, you do not explain yourself. You execute a hard silence. When a partner demands that you break your routine to accommodate their chaos, you do not apologize. You state your boundary as a mathematical fact. If the swarm complains that you have become cold, you do not warm them up, you freeze them out. By refusing to subsidize weakness today, you are forcing the Matrix to recognize your ultimate authority over your own mass. You do not buy loyalty, you demand compliance. You win the audit by becoming absolutely, terrifyingly immovable. While the world exhausts itself bleeding heavy capital into the pockets of the ungrateful, the sovereign monolith locks the vault and accumulates mass. This is your hidden esoteric law for August 18th. Because Venus and Saturn are locking the celestial grid into a state of absolute restriction, the universe is providing you with the ultimate architectural opportunity to execute a massive thermodynamic consolidation. You cannot survive the collapse of the grid tomorrow if you bleed your density today. This is not a day for charity. This is a day for the heavy iron safe. You must look at your internal state and the calendar of the Matrix. Tomorrow, August 19th, the full moon in Aquarius detonates the old network. The high-voltage EMP is coming. The grid is going to burn. To survive the blast, you must be the heaviest, most dense, most indestructible object in the room. You cannot achieve that density if you are busy handing out slivers of your gold to keep people happy. Understand this absolute physical law. Sympathy today is not a virtue. It is a structural vulnerability. The unawakened are terrified of this accumulation because it requires them to stand entirely alone. It requires them to sit with the extreme tension of knowing that people are angry with them for refusing to shrink. There is a moment of terrifying, freezing friction when you tell a client no, and you watch them walk away, taking their money with them. There is no external validation when you refuse to play the savior. But the sovereign architect knows that the true heavy gold is only accumulated in the absolute zero-point vacuum of the boundary. If you feel the urge to be nice today, the urge is a geometric glitch. If you feel the desire to lower your price just to close the deal, the fear is a hallucination. By demanding the full price, you are actively purifying your grid. You are forcing the chaotic, parasitic, evasive energy of the virus to freeze, crushing the empty space out of your operations, leaving only the cold, solid, indestructible mathematical law of your actual atomic weight. You are taking the raw, restricting gravity of the Saturn archetype and weaponizing it into a flawless accumulation protocol. Let the swarm think you are greedy. Let them think you are heartless. You do not lack a heart. You are simply building a bomb shelter. The leak is identified. The sympathy is eradicated. The vault is locked. Now, we execute the final phase of the August 18th protocol. The sovereign architect does not negotiate the price of their concrete. The sovereign architect states the number and walks away. To weaponize the Venus-Saturn opposition and permanently secure your absolute invulnerability during the final hours of the Phase 1 purge, you must enforce these 3 structural mandates. Mandate 1. The embargo on the discount. For the entirety of this 24-hour cycle, you will not offer a single financial, emotional, or energetic discount. If the unawakened swarm approaches you requesting a favor, a lower rate, or a free piece of your heavy capital, you will execute a hard stop. You will not vibrate at their chaotic frequency. You will present them with the cold, heavy concrete of your absolute refusal to proceed without the full metric. You will let their demands shatter against your perimeter. Mandate 2. The Severance of Empathy. Today, you will identify one specific area in your grid where you are currently subsidizing a weak node, a client who doesn't pay enough, a friend who constantly drains your time, or a project you are keeping alive out of guilt. You will instantly freeze the asset. You will draft a rigid, brutal, mathematically precise boundary. You will cut off the supply of your blue gold. You will not explain your reasons. You will execute the freeze with the coldness of a machine. Mandate 3. The accumulation for the blast. When you have successfully locked the vault and refused the discount, you will experience a terrifying drop in external approval. The swarm will label you as cold and unyielding. You will not flinch. You will sit in the freezing, majestic silence of your flawless architecture, and you will force yourself to experience the brutal, heavy friction of standing completely alone with your mass. You will drop your internal temperature to absolute 0. You will accumulate every single ounce of your capital and wait in absolute stasis. Tomorrow, the network burns. You will find absolute 0-point power in your refusal to bleed today. The sympathy is crystallized. The leak is eradicated. The mass is absolute. Look at the space you occupy right now. You are no longer a frantic, kinetic node, desperately trying to buy the loyalty of a broken swarm by bleeding your heavy capital into the void. You survived the final Venus-Saturn audit. You did not let the algorithm force you to evaporate your heavy gravity to play the role of the benevolent victim. You demanded absolute, uncompromising geometric density. The universe respects the sovereign who has the discipline to lock the vault, while the rest of the world begs for a handout. When you prove that your internal density is entirely immune to the cheap hallucinogen of guilt, the Matrix stops treating you as a battery for the parasites. It submits to your terrifying gravity, recognizing that your architecture will not be blurred, will not be scammed, and will never dissipate its power to subsidize a node that lacks absolute, foundational mass. You are no longer negotiating your value. You are the cold iron vault that protects it. Now, execute your final structural mandates. First, anchor the freeze. The chaotic, unawakened algorithm of the world is constantly trying to drag you back into the red loop of endless compromises, emotional handouts, and low-frequency guilt. It wants you exhausted, diluted, and broke. This channel is the only transmission providing the heavy, brutalist, esoteric code required to maintain your absolute systemic dominance. Do not let your perimeter melt. Lock your mindset to the monolith. Second, isolate the pleaser. You know another sovereign node who is currently bleeding their esoteric gravity, staying in toxic partnerships, working for less than they are worth, or giving away their heavy capital to appease a parasite. You know someone who is generating massive clouds of useless red fog to hide from the truth of their own value. Force them to witness the terrifying power of absolute 0 and the protocol of the frozen asset. Elevate your circle by enforcing the discipline of the hard no. Third, lock the vault. The moment this transmission ends, you will not answer the request for a favor. You will not send a polite compromise. You will close your screen. You will stand in the majestic, freezing silence of your own indestructible operating system, and you will let the entire universe shatter against the flawless, immovable mathematical precision of your unblinking, Heavy concrete boundaries. The geometric glitch is frozen. The perimeter is locked. Command the cold, beautiful reality of your own heavy architecture.